What I tried to show is that the main event today is not seen by those of us that live in it. We see the surface of the newspapers, the obviousness of conflict, of social injustice, of the market, welling up of culture. But to me, the greatest event, or the most important event of perhaps our entire history, nothing comparable in the past to this event is fundamentally gone unnoticed. And the event is the following: the transiting from old nature, or the natural environment as our host of life for human habitation, into a technological milieu, into mass technology as the environment of life. So these films have never been about the effect of technology, of industry on people. It's been that everyone, politics, education, the financial structure, the nation-state structure, language, the culture, religion, all of that exists within the host of technology. So it's not the effect of, it's that everything exists within. It's not that we use technology, we live technology. Technology has become as ubiquitous as the air we breathe, so we are no longer conscious of its presence. So what I decided to do in making this film is to rip out all the foreground of a traditional film, the foreground being the actors, the characterization, the plot, the story. I tried to take the background, all of that just supported like wallpaper, move that up into the foreground, make that the subject, ennoble it with the virtues of portraiture, and make that the present. So we looked at traffic as the event. We looked at the organization of a city as the equivalent of what a computer chip looks like. We looked at acceleration and density as qualities of a way of life that is not seen and goes unquestioned. Life unquestioned is life lived in a religious state. I wished for Koyaanisqatsi not to have any name at all. The discussions were early enough on about the trilogy. I thought that we shouldn't have a name, that we should have an image. Why use a word to describe something that we're trying to say is undescribable or unnameable? It's not for lack of love of the language that these films have no words. It's because, from my point of view, our language is in a state of vast humiliation. It no longer describes the world in which we live. And in that sense, going to these films, Koyaanisqatsi, since I was forced to take a word, I felt that I wanted a word that had no cultural baggage, that had no preconceived meaning surrounding it, and to take a word as inscrutable from a non-literate language, from a culture of orality, I felt was fantastic. They have a whole different take on things. Everything that we call normal, they call abnormal. Everything that we call sane, they call insane. That was music to my ears, because I was not trying in these films, in any of them, to make commentary on Hopi's way of life or their culture. This is not an ethnographic film about Hopis. It's not a collaboration with Hopi particulars. It's the opportunity to find inspiration in another person's point of view about the life that we all live. So in that sense, it's a salute to a language that is more powerful in its descriptive capacity to describe the world in which we live. So Koyaanisqatsi means, first of all, Qatsi itself means life. It means way of life, life way. So Koyaanis means crazy, turmoil, out of balance, disintegrating, a way of living that calls for another way of doing it. So it means a way of life that's out of balance, a way of life that's crazy, that's in turmoil, a way of life that calls for another way of living. We're at a moment of great transition in the world called the Day of Purification, and that from that purification will come a more balanced, harmonic life. Koyaanisqatsi was like a plague that had happened to them in the underworld, and that they tried to come into this world to avoid. The definitions at the end are my commentaries, but they're faithful to the root or the etymology of the word. Would people understand what that word means? I don't know. Is it important that they take my understanding trying to be true to the etymology of the word? That's not important either. In most cases, music is background to support plot and characterization and to splay out an emotive theme to create an atmosphere in the film. And the composers usually are highly professional and do their work under the director's indication and gives that to the director, and the director usually cuts it up. There are exceptions, but that's generally the way it works.
When I first met Godfrey in '78, he called me up and he said, would I be interested in scoring a film? And I said, I don't write movie music, which of course is kind of funny right now because I've done a bit of it since then. But and he said this was a little bit different.
I talk more about mood and feeling. I leave the scape of mathematical contour to Phil. I try to get them on the platform. They let me drive them crazy, and I talk to them, write them papers, give them sheaves of notes, pictures, bring them to my studio, practically weep in front of them, and they come back with beautiful things.
This mutual friend called me up and said, look, this guy's from Santa Fe and he's going to stay here until you look at what is brought, so why don't you just look at it and he can go home. So we got together and we had the afternoon to ourselves. What I saw basically was, I guess, the first 40 minutes of the film. Things like the cloudscapes were there of Koyaanisqatsi and maybe the pictures of the four corners.
It's more about a symbiosis, a chemistry. And Philip, you know, I'm sure in some way I probably rave on and he turns it off. But that's okay, he lets me rave on.
Actually, Godfrey did a very smart thing. He said, I'm going to show you the movie, what I've done. I'm going to show it to you twice. Once with an electronic score that I've gotten, and once with your music. And he showed it to me both times. He said, and he said, well, as you can see, your music works much better. So what could I say? Basically, I had said yes. So I was interested, and I said, oh, this is something I can do.
Philip's ability to, his quickness of mind, his interest, his ability to be enthusiastic, his capacity to produce was overwhelming. He's disciplined to the point of being totally inspiring. I mean, it was the perfect person. He was on for the ride.
When he first gave me a cut of it, I divided the cut into sections, and I timed the sections. There were about 12 or 13 or 14, or maybe more, different moments. And then I wrote music for each section, and I put it together. Then Godfrey listened to that music, and he completely reassembled the images. So it didn't fit at all the way I thought it was going to. So basically, I tried to put them together, and he pushed them apart in a certain way. And I think he was right to. What he did, in effect, was he took the ambience of the music instead of the structure of the music. And he cut to the ambience and not to the structure. So he cut to the feeling of the music and not the way the music was built, which turned out to be the right way to do it.
What I find in Philip is an enormous, extraordinary sensitivity. When I say Fricke's a genius, certainly Mr. Glass is a perceptual musical genius. And here I get a chance to work with these two, giants.
So we spent about 3 years. We had a very leisurely pace. No one was waiting for this movie. No one knew what it was going to be, and we ourselves had no idea who would look at it. And that was a tremendous advantage because we had time to look at things, to rewrite things, to recut things. In fact, we got into the habit of working interactively. He would show me images, I would show him music, we would recut, I would recompose. We come back together again, we look at it again, we go through the process again, and every one of the sections of Koyaanisqatsi went through that process numerous times, so that we can say that truly the image and the music began to function organically together.